Welcome to Black People Love Paramore, a podcast to try to help Black people feel seen. Please feel free to donate to the show at the link in the show notes, and please rate us and write us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars only, because we are 5-star bitches. Word to Yo Gotti. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment, and all of those things. I'm your host, Sequoia, and today joining me to talk about Tame Impala, we have host and creator of There Are No Girls on the Internet podcast, as well as host of Beef podcast, Bridget Todd. Hi, Bridget.
I'm so happy to be here. Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming on. Please tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I am a podcaster and a creative type. I make a podcast on iHeartRadio called There Are No Girls on the Internet. Similarly, a funny name that is a mouthful. Sequoia, I know that you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That show was really meant to kind of change the conversation around conversations about technology, social media, the internet. So often we're talking about white tech billionaires like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg when we're talking about technology. But we know that the people who actually make the internet great are people who look like you and me, right? Black
Absolutely.
women, queer folks, people of color, LGBTQ folks. And so I wanted to make a tech show that really spotlighted those perspectives. I also make a podcast called Beef, which explores my other favorite interest, which is pettiness and rivalries. So we explore the juiciest historical rivalries from history that you might not know about, and the way that pettiness and one-upsmanship have really aided innovation in our country.
Oh my God, I love that. First of all, what a fucking orator you are. Like, just eloquently laid that out. I have trouble telling people what my fucking podcast is about. I've been doing it for 2 years.
What do you say when asked?
I'm like, it's about topics and ideas that Black people like that mainstream media doesn't necessarily associate with Black people, but that we know that we like. And then I just like list off different things, different topics that we've talked about. And they're like, oh yeah, I get that. And I'm like, damn, I wish there was a more concise way that I could get here, but I can't. I don't know what's going on.
It's like the curse of having a show that is like complex, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, we talk about topics of the day. It's like, no. It's a little bit layered. It's nuanced.
It's layered and nuanced, and the title is confusing to people because they're like, oh, so you have a like Paramore, fan club show. And I'm like, I don't. That's just the title. So I have to explain it further.
I have to tell you, recently, another podcast that I host called CityCast DC, my co-host for that podcast recently took his daughter to a Paramore concert here in DC. And he was like, I have to ask you, there were so many Black people at this concert. And I was like, That is not surprising to me because Black people love Paramore.
Absolutely that. Oh my God, especially in DC, Chocolate City.
Yes.
Yeah, you about to get a big Black turnout.
The whole crowd. He was like, the whole crowd. He was like, it was more Black than white. And it melted my heart.
I love that. I'm going to my first Paramore show in like 2 weeks, and I'm very excited about it.
Where are you going to? Where?
To the LA show.
Oh my God. I hope they bring you up on stage to do Misery Business.
I'm actually fucking scared about it, Bridget. Like, I'm gonna tell you after the call, I have like I'll tell you some news, but I'm actually terrified that might happen.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, no, please, no, Haley, no, I can't.
Yes, Haley, yes.
I will. Now, if you pull me up, I will. I'll put on this red wig and we'll be up there doing it.
You're going to go on tour with them?
Right, me? Yes, take me in the backpack, please. I will go. Anyways, thank you so much for coming on, Bridget. So before we get into talking about Tame Impala, we have In My Defense. In My Defense is our segment where we bring one of our unpopular opinions and defend it for you all. I actually have one this week. I often do not because I'm tired of talking to y'all about things that are a little controversial because I can get real left with that. So I actually have one this week. That's not that crazy. Bridget, do you have one?
I do have one. I had one and then I switched it up after looking at what was going on yesterday on social media. And I was watching the whole Keke Palmer's, the father of her child, publicly drag her for the way that she was dressed. I just think we know way too much about celebrities' personal lives. Like, I love Keke Palmer. I think she's fantastic, a national treasure. I don't want to know that she is entertaining a bum. I don't want to know this bum's opinions. We know way too much. We have way too much access. I also don't like that, like, now it's discourse where people are like, well, see, I am using this to glean this take about my own personal life. And I'm like, well, Keke Palmer's a celebrity. Like, your life and her life are probably very different. The whole thing, I was just like, I just want to love Keke Palmer and put her on a pedestal. I don't want to have to know the opinions and musings of the father of her child. I don't need to know.
Know. Wow. Okay. I definitely feel you on that. We know way too fucking much. Why are you bringing me into it? I know that you have her phone number. I know that you do. This is not something that I needed to know at all. Be fucking for real right now.
Presumably they live in the same house. So if you have these thoughts, you could just like go to the room that she's in and tell her that. Like, why are we getting involved? Why do I know this information?
Like, it's one thing to have the thought, okay? That's bad enough to me. You know, it's like, sure. It's another thing to tell Kiki, okay, we're creeping into...
Don't love it, but fine.
You know, don't love it. We're creeping into don't love that, but okay. You went on the internet and brought us into it? Are you being for real right now? For real?
It's too much. And it really just made me think about how we, non-celebrities, just regular people, it's very easy to see somebody on TV and be like, oh, well, their dating life, I'm gonna take XYZ away from what they're doing. And it's like, we probably have very different lives. There's probably not a lot of overlap there if you really think about it.
Very minimal, if any, very minimal overlap there if you really think about it. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. That was a really good one. Certainly. We know too much about celebrity lives overall. We can keep some of that for yourself. Please be a little bit more private. Thank you. We appreciate it. Mine this week, also topical. I finished The Idol. Did you watch The Idol?
I tried, and I couldn't make it through the first episode.
That's
Wait, did you finish the whole thing?
Was slow. I did. I finished the whole thing. The first episode was slow. The second episode was also slow. I feel like it picked up around episode 3. And I just knew it was going somewhere at episode 3. I was like, ooh, okay. We're here. Like, this is getting like actually kind of good. All the internet hate wasn't that good. Blah, 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 blah. I'm doing all this because I like The Weeknd.
Oh, that's an unpopular opinion of its own.
I know. I do like Abel. Do Abel like black women? Unclear. But
question mark.
I like Abel's music. I finished it and it was ass. It ended up being ass. At the end of the day, it ended up being ass. I'm not sure why The Weeknd would fuck up his mystique by playing this Tedros character and making us think of him, but sure. It wasn't good. That said, I will be bumping the song from it. Ooh. I'm a Freak in my little Honda Civic till, further notice.
So I'm even though for a show that I did not watch more than 20 minutes of, I am very read in on the show. You would think I was obsessed with it. So I've heard that the song is very good. Good. I've also heard that, you can give me some insight into this. The sexual dialogue is like the most cringy stuff you will ever hear. Like I saw a quote of The Weeknd saying something or other, and I was like, wow, that is what a middle schooler would say if they were having sex.
Cringy, gagging, like real bad. Yes, it was real bad.
What do you think happened here? Like, how do you think The Weeknd wound up in this, defending it, making it kind of a part of his identity for a while? Like, what do you think happened here?
I think The Weeknd strong-armed his way into this, TBH. I think he was an executive producer in the same way, and this is my theory, I don't actually know this. I think he was an executive producer in the same way that Drake was an executive producer on Euphoria. And you see, Drake decided to just give the money, like many executive producers do, especially ones with celebrity names, give the money, hands off, move back, and that's it. I think The Weeknd was like, I could do that, or I could star in it. Why he made that choice? Unclear. Why the writing was so bad? I have thoughts on that too.
Ooh.
I think Sam Levinson is the white Tyler Perry. And I say that because I think Tyler Perry doesn't have writer's rooms. Notoriously doesn't have writer's rooms. He writes every script alone by himself. And that's why they're like that. Sam Levinson is the same way. No writer's rooms, writes scripts alone by himself, teleplay.
And it shows.
All of that is so visible. Just because you have more budget than a Tyler Perry budget does not mean that you're making better content than a Tyler Perry. You're not. So that's my theory as to why the writing was so bad and why April was in it.
I think you're right. Did you see the Sam Levinson project, Malcolm and Marie, on Netflix?
Yes.
I mean,
I did.
The dialogue is not good. Like, there's no shame in being like, oh, how did this creative work come to be in the world? A room full of talented and diverse writers who know what they're doing, and me. There's no shame in that.
There's no shame.
The need to be like, oh, I do this all on my own. I just don't get it when you're making products that are embarrassing. Like
I 100% agree. Absolutely. What's the reason? Is it cheaper? I know it is cheaper, so that must be maybe that's the reason.
I think it's probably cheaper, and I think there is something else, like a cultural mythos around being the singular person who made the thing. Like this is my vision and my vision alone. I think
Right.
we've gotten into this weird thing where people feel like it's a little bit shameful to depend on a room full of writers who are polishing and tweaking and editing. But that's how good things come out into the world, is through the talent and labor of a lot of people.
Absolutely. And that's true of a lot of different mediums, some of which that are not even creative. A lot of people are involved with a lot of things all the time. Like lawyers
Exactly.
have teams. Whenever you sign in with a lawyer, you're also signing up with the clerk and whatever the hell else that they reference. There are teams all the time. What is the big deal? Anyways, I've had enough of Sam Levinson and his content overall. Am I going to watch the next season of Euphoria? Yes.
Oh my
Am
god.
I going to talk shit about it on the internet? Yes. And yeah, that'll be that on
He
that.
has such a grip on me. Like, I think that for some of the stuff that went down in Malcolm and Marie and the second season of Euphoria, like, he needs to be in jail. Will I watch every episode? Yes.
Yes, I will. 100%. Malcolm and Marie's dialogue, like you were saying, egregious. It felt so exhausting to get through that movie. And I'm sure that was on purpose to some degree, but like not in a fun way. Not in a
No.
like, oh, this is art. Like, I understand what you were doing here. Like, this is one really long argument and like we're tired too. I just didn't want to watch it. I want to turn it off. And I don't think that was your intention when making a film.
Yeah, and it's like these things, they have to feel fun. It can't just feel like a torture session where I am like, I'm watching this character be tortured and me, the audience, I'm also being tortured. That's not
Right.
fun.
No, we're gonna move on. It's a song of the week because I could talk about this shit all day, and I really do want to hear your thoughts on Tame Impala because, as I said before we started recording, y'all, I don't listen to Tame Impala at all, so I will be learning from this episode. And I did listen a little bit before this, and I can see how people, especially Black people, like it. But I'm happy to hear from you. Song of the week this week, I have one. Bridget, I would like to hear yours.
Oh, well, mine is a great transition because I had to pick a Tame Impala song, my favorite
Naturally,
one. The less I know, the better.
naturally.
It was the first Tame Impala song I ever heard, the first Tame Impala song I ever, like, really, really fucked with heavily. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a great song, a great groove. It's nice and long, so if you like a longer song, it's for you. It's lots of crescendos. Gotta go with that one.
Okay, I like that. When I'm listening to Tame Impala, just in preparation for this podcast, I feel like he kind of puts me in the mindset of a James Blake, where I'm like,
Yes,
yeah, this is like, I understand. Black people also love James Blake.
we sure do.
Like, I totally get it. I'm going to quickly say my song because it's a little bit more off topic and I want to get back to the topic. I chose On My Mama by Victoria Monet this week
Ooh.
because it has been everywhere and it's a fantastic song of the summer. Listen to it if you have not done so. Moving on to Tame Impala. I'm just going to explain who Tame Impala is for folks who might not know. Tame Impala is a psychedelic music project of Australian multi-instrumentalist Kevin Parker. In the recording studio, Parker writes, records, performs, and produces all of the project's music. As a touring act, Tame Impala consists of Parker, Dominic Semper, Jay Watson, Cam Avery, and Julian Barbagallo. So, when I was researching for this episode, I was like, oh, okay, Tame Impala is one singular human being. And then when I read the Wikipedia thing, I'm like, okay, but when you're seeing Tame Impala on tour, do you say you're going to see him or do you say you're going to see them?
So this is a widely discussed topic. Tame Impala is so that musician where it's like, oh, I'm going to see Tame Impala. I love them. And people will be like, well, actually, it's
Yeah.
one guy. But
Yeah.
when you see Tame Impala live, it's not just one guy. So it's
Right.
a little bit of a dispute there. But people will. I've definitely referred to Tame Impala as a collective group and had people correct me. So if you're
Oh my
talking about Tame
God.
Impala later at a cocktail party, just be aware of that information.
Okay. Okay. I'll be sure to make sure that I am like very buttoned up with my Tame Impala pronoun usage. It is one singular person. Got it. That makes sense. Okay. I'm going to pull up this little article that I found from Complex, written by writer Xavier Hamilton. He did a piece about Childish Gambino's 2019 performance in Perth, Australia. I'm going to read a little bit of it here. According to local publication Power Rats, Gambino took a break from his performance in Perth to remind the audience that Tame Impala is really good. Do y'all fuck with Tame Impala? I fuck with Tame Impala, Gambino asked the crowd. Black people really fuck with Tame Impala. Y'all should be proud of him. As a Black person, Gambino's statement is an accurate assessment. Kevin Parker's psych rock project probably falls in between Steve Irwin and Wolverine as the Australian cultural exports that catch our attention. Like most things, this affinity has spilled over onto social media, with people reminding everyone that their love for Tame Impala goes way back. And then he lists like a couple tweets that I found funny, so I'm going to read the two that I found really funny. This tweet from user Ronde from 310 says, "Me and my niggas will pull up slapping Tame Impala and hop out daring a nigga to test us. That's just how we are." And then one from user Quaalude, interesting name, says, "Don't let my music taste confuse you. I still be robbing niggas on Normandy. Then I hop back in the whip and blast Tame Impala." I was entertained. I love the spectacle. I love the Blackness spectacle, and pretty much saying Tame Impala is not white music. It is for us.
It is for us.
Is what I'm taking from those.
Absolutely. Yeah. Twitter, if you search Tame Impala Black people, you will get some great tweets. Yep. And it's funny that Childish Gambino was talking about this, because I remember way back when, before Atlanta ever came out, the first teaser that I ever saw of Atlanta uses a Tame Impala song. It uses New Person, Same Old Mistakes. And I remember thinking like, wow, I had no idea what Atlanta was. I barely knew who Childish Gambino was, but the fact that he was coming out onto the scene with a Tame Impala soundtrack really says a lot about his affinity for Tame Impala.
It really does. And he taking the time out of his Australian shows to let people know about his affinity for Tame Impala. So it's really real out here. But Bridget, I want to hear about what Tame Impala does for you personally. What about Tame Impala?
That's a good question. You know, I have been a lifelong appreciator of white people music. I just have to be honest about it. It goes back a ways.
Sure
but
does.
Oftentimes I feel like that music is me appreciating something that feels very different, right? I'm like, oh, this is not, this is something that is unusual or atypical. With Tame Impala, it sounds like he made it for us, right? It's not me having to, I guess, how can I put this? There's a funkiness to it. There's a rhythm to it. There's a sound and a groove to it that I feel like is unmistakably from the Black musical and cultural tradition. Yes. And there's something, being kind of like psychedelic rock inspired, so much of that was Black people. Like I really feel like Tame Impala's music speaks to the Black musical tradition of, long ass funky grooves. If you listen to Stevie Wonder, all of his songs were so long, right? Like long. So much of the music that comes from us is about these long grooves. And I feel like Tame Impala, I think if you asked him, he would be like, oh yeah, my big inspiration comes from Black music, funk, soul, psychedelic. And so I really see it as an interesting love letter / interpolation of musical styles that originated with Black folks. And I hear it and I love it.
I definitely feel that. When I was listening in preparation, I was like, oh yeah, this is some Black shit. Like, yeah, this is definitely influenced by. And funny enough, when I went and looked for his influences, he did not mention any Black people. And I'm wondering if like Wikipedia just didn't, I'm sure he's mentioned it at some point. He has had to. Listening to the music, I'm like, there's literally no way. He mentioned Kylie Minogue and Britney Spears, which kind of shocked me. Like, okay. I'm like, bubblegum pop? Okay.
Well, so, I mean, that, to me, like, so much of good pop music is us. Yes, and so definitely. Britney Spears might be the person, the name out front, but, like, when you look at, like, who produced it, is it Pharrell? Is it Timberland? So, like, I think that can really go back to this is like if you've ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where the dad is like, give me any word and I can tell you how it's Greek. Give me any style of culture and I can tell you how it's Black.
Very much that. Oh my God, that is so accurate, 100%. Because even Britney is Janet Jackson.
Exactly.
A little different, but Janet Jackson.
That's who Britney Spears herself names as her biggest influence, both as a musician and dancer.
It is so clear. It is incredibly clear. When I'm watching Britney, I'm like, is this Janet? Like, I don't know. This is crazy. I definitely see that. Makes sense. What was the first song that you heard? You said that earlier, but...
The Less I Know, the Better. It was the first Tame Impala song I ever heard. And I remember it's going to sound how it sounds, so whatever. It was on the soundtrack of this I wouldn't say failed, but a not popular AMC show. I can't remember the name of the show, but it was about like the early computer. And I remember it came on right after Mad Men. And I was like, deep into Mad Men hype. And so after Mad Men, I would be like, what is this song? Like, what is this like show they're trying to get me to watch that I didn't watch? And I old school Shazammed the song, and I was like, oh, at the time I was calling it Tame Impala because I had never heard the name.
That's fair.
But yeah, that was the first Tame Impala song I ever heard, and I truly thought that it was going to be like a psychedelic band from the 70s. I
Right.
could not have. I was so shocked to find out that it was a contemporary musician.
Like one man contemporary artist, 100%. Because when I listen, I definitely get that. I'm like, wow, what a blast from the past. It has great vibes. It's groovy, like you said, good rhythm to it. I like it a lot. Is that the song that solidified your fandom, or was that another one that kind of like really snatched you in?
That was the song that first made me fall in love with Tame Impala. The song that made me see that Tame Impala is not just, a psychedelic music act that speaks to my little music nerd soul, but is also really like could be popular, could be accessible, was Elephant, which if you know one Tame Impala song, you probably know that song. It has a really like recognizable guitar riff. It's in commercials a lot. And so, I have a thing where I love music. I love music that is niche and not accessible. But when someone can do both, they can be, psychedelic, 7-minute long groove, and also a song in a Subaru commercial. I feel like that is really like talent. And so that was the first song that I was like, oh, Tame Impala is like contains multitudes. he can do it all.
That is super impressive. That is such a good point, to be able to go from commercial to a more indie sound that people quote unquote respect, because people don't respect commercial sound for some reason. It is a talent, and it's hard to maintain the respect of both segments too. People who like commercial music generally are like, oh, the indie is like, and then folks who like the indie sound a little bit more are kind of like, why does it sound so poppy and commercial? But Tame Impala really does do a good blend.
And there's not a lot of musicians who can straddle that line. I think it's a really delicate balance. And yeah, I'm a, as much as I like weirdo inaccessible music, I'm also a pop girly at heart. I think it's really difficult to make a accessible, good pop piece of music. And I think somebody who can do both, that's talent.
I definitely agree with that. That is such a good point. Okay. You can only keep one. From the 3 projects, Interspeak, Lonerism, Currents, which one are you keeping?
Currents, no question in my mind.
Okay.
I could, if we were, I'm recording up in my recording booth, but if I was down in my apartment, I would have run and grabbed the vinyl that I have of it, because it's like one of my prized possessions. That is like wall-to-wall bangers. That is a record you could put on from beginning to end. All of Tame, I fuck with all of Tame Impala's records, but that is the one that is like wall-to-wall bangers. There is not a bad track on that album.
I love that. And of the 3 that I just listed, that's the most recent one, right?
So the most recent one came out in 2020, Slow Rush, but it came out right as the pandemic was starting, and so it kind of gets a little bit like lost in the mix. Fun fact about that: so when the pandemic started, Tame Impala did this appearance on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and it was right, like it might have been like March of 2020. Like it was right when the pandemic was like heating up and people weren't doing live performances. And so I could not recommend looking this up on YouTube enough. It's Tame Impala, but he has got the screen split in thirds. And so it's 3 versions of himself, one on guitar, one on vocals, one on drums. And it's just like him performing with himself. And this was at a time when we didn't know what live performances were going to be like. We didn't know what late night TV shows were being taped in their living rooms and stuff. Like we didn't know. And it really, for me, was a real culture shift, a vibe shift of like, oh, people are gonna, as bad as it is to be quarantining and stuck at home, people are gonna find creative ways to still entertain and make music and create art, despite the fact that this time is so weird.
And they do. And he did. That is actually very impressive. The 3 split, first of all, being a multi-instrumentalist in the first place is thoroughly impressive. Being able to do it and put it all together in a way that resonates with other people, I feel like is even less heard of, particularly because he's doing all of the things in the studio. He doesn't have help in the studio. He's doing it by himself. Oh my God, we were literally just talking about how people need to get help. Unless you're Tame Impala.
Unless you're Tame Impala.
You're good.
unless you're Tame Impala in the studio. And after that performance, I remember hearing a rumor that's like, oh, people always say that Tame Impala is one guy, but did you know it's actually a set of triplets?
Oh, I'm done. I'm
so
done.
silly.
Have you seen this performance? So don't tell me that it's just him again. When I say they, it's right. I like it. That's good. Good internet fodder for sure. What do you feel like is the most overrated Tame Impala song? Or do you feel like there is
Ooh,
one?
that's a good question. I don't think that there's an overrated Tame Impala song. Probably the song that if you aren't super familiar with Tame Impala that you probably know is because Rihanna, I won't say covered it, but like did a version of it called
Yeah.
Same Old Mistakes. And so
Yeah.
New Person, Same Old Mistakes was probably one of my favorite Tame Impala songs. I love the Rihanna version of it as well, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that is probably the song that people who are not super familiar with Tame Impala know. And
Yes.
I want that to be the tip of the Tame Impala iceberg. There's so much more to discover. You're about to get high and have a really great Saturday listening to a bunch of albums.
Oh, it sounds like a dream. Oh my God. I was just high on a plane, like coming back from Costa Rica for my mom's birthday.
Ooh, fun.
And I had headphones on. I was listening to music and I was like, oh my God. Some songs that I really like sounded really bad when I was high. And some songs sounded really good when I was high that I like didn't really pay much attention to. I'm gonna have to do that same thing with Tame Impala because I'm thinking about the Rihanna song because I do know that Rihanna song. And I can only imagine what that sounds like if I get high on a Saturday, sit with my headphones on and listen to it. And I want to dive deeper. I want to go into
Uh,
the Tame Impala rabbit hole.
my favorite way to spend any afternoon high with headphones on, listening to music. And there's specific music that really hits differently on a plane or a train. So,
Yes,
yeah.
you are so right. Absolutely. Okay. What about an underrated Tame Impala song that you wish everyone knew about?
Ooh, this is a good one. Eventually. And I think
You're right.
I love that song because the entire song is about the experience of bumping into an ex like at a dry cleaner. And so I think we've all had that moment of like, is that my ex? We had a bad
Yeah.
breakup. Are they still thinking about me? Are they dating somebody else? But turning that one like 3-second moment in time into like a 6-minute long song, I think is really artful, but also really, relatable. Because like, haven't we all been there? Haven't we all seen our ex across a parking lot and thought like, oh my God, what do I do? And you're frozen in that moment. He takes that one moment and builds an entire world out of it.
Oh my God. And I like what you said about it being really relatable because being impressive and relatable at the same time is also a very difficult world to live in. So it is impressive that he strikes that balance. Good for him. Come
Exactly. And
on,
I think
Tame.
like, yeah, it's sort of, you really nailed it. It's this dichotomy of impressive but relatable, right? Like those two
Yeah.
things don't usually go together, but somebody who can be like, oh, I'm going to make a very impressive thing out of something that you've also experienced. It gets me every time.
Right. No, I definitely love that. I need more of that in my life, TBH. Have you ever seen him live or them live?
The answer is no. And the sad part
Damn.
is I have bought tickets twice in my life. The first, I had a work thing on that same date and I couldn't go. The second, I got COVID. So I have been trying to see Tame Impala live
Damn.
for years. It's not in the cards. I feel like I
Damn.
would die of happiness. I mean, I I haven't gone to a concert in so long. Do people still dance at concerts?
I haven't gone to a concert in so long. I think depending on the genre of the show, it seems to me that people would dance at a Tame Impala show. Seems very vibey. Like people might be on a little bit of drugs and might just let go of their inhibitions and dance a little bit. So I'd imagine people would dance at a Tame Impala
My
show.
God. Dancing to Tame Impala at a Tame Impala live show is like a goal of mine. I was once at a nightclub where they played a Tame Impala song and it was literally just me on the dance floor losing my mind. Everybody else was like, what is happening? What, like, she's really into this song. Like, what's going on? But
Losing it.
I would die of happiness.
Oh my God, Mr. Tame, if you are listening to this, go ahead and make sure that you get Bridget tickets because this is a real fan, okay? And speaking of, almost a year ago today, you tweeted at me saying you should do a Tame Impala episode of your podcast.
That's right.
It's so weird. It was July 8th, 2022, and today is July 6th, 2023. It's so weird that like almost to the
Oh
day
my
we're doing it and I'm doing it
God.
with you.
I completely forgot about that. But when I first heard your podcast, and the way that I first heard it was when you were being like review bombed by assholes, right? And so
Yes.
I was like, let me go through the entire back catalog to see if there's a Tame Impala episode. And I was like, she has to do this podcast. Like, so
Right.
it is. I mean, it truly is like making my dream come true, being able to talk about my favorite musician with you on this podcast.
That is very cool. It is just so serendipitous. Just the timing of it all of it is very cool. You not having seen Tame Impala is very much like me not having seen Paramore. I'm going to see them in 2 weeks, but only because I went to a Spotify event and one of the like for podcasters and artists in like the Black rock space. And one of the folks that works there, shout out to Chissy, love Chissy so much, was like, "Oh, you've seen Paramore live, right?" And I was like, "I haven't." And she was like, "Bet, we're gonna change
Oh
that."
my
And
God.
was able to get me tickets.
I'm
Like reached
so
out to Paramore's
excited
manager,
for
got me tickets.
you.
Like so grateful. Thank you so much, Shissy. So I'm very excited to see. Much like you, I had bought Paramore tickets before, and they had to cancel their show because of COVID.
Oh.
This was recent too. This was within the last year. They had to cancel that show because of COVID, and they rescheduled for a day that I was going to be out of town in DC. Funny enough, so I couldn't go.
My favorite. So I'm very excited for you. My
Thank you.
favorite Paramore happening of the last 5 years was when. Do you remember that time where like people were like, we're like changing the names of their stuff and being like, we're not going to do this anymore because it's sexist. First Paramore was like, we're not going to perform Misery Business anymore because maybe it's a little bit sexist. And then they were like, now we're bringing it back because a bop is a bop. Like, come on, like we're not going to not do Misery Business.
Right? You know how much shit we listen to that we're like, if we really listen to these lyrics too hard, we can't really get into it. But no, we're here with it. Everybody, I think they got it back on the roster because everybody was like, excuse me,
right?
You think you gonna get rid of Misery Business? No, babe, bring that shit back. Run it back. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for you going to the show.
I'm so excited, and I feel like they are now bringing people on stage to sing it because Haley's like, I don't really want to sing these lyrics like that, so like, you come up and you sing it.
When they bring the people up, they know not just every word, every intonation. Right?
100%.
Like they have been singing this in their car for the last 10 years.
Yes. No, literally. And if I end up on stage somehow, some way, singing Misery Business, I will also know every intonation, breath, 100%. I'm going to have it. I'm going to be nervous, but I'm going to do it. So if y'all see me doing Misery Business somewhere, please like and engage with it. Don't let me flop.
I can feel it. It's going to happen. And it's about to be like a moment. I can just tell. I can just feel it.
That would be great. Okay, so as we know, Black people do love Tame Impala, but I pulled up some lyrics straight from Genius of times when rappers in particular have referenced Tame Impala because it's been a few times. One of which is from Kanye West. I did not actually pull that one up because that was enough. Just know that Kanye has mentioned Tame Impala. All right, okay. And then there's one from Tyler, the Creator. His song is called Party Isn't Over, Campfire, Beamer. 3 titles in one. And the lyric is, pop some Tame Impala, your man got a lame Impala. And when I looked at what the lyrics meant, the little Genius, decoder was like, Tyler, the Creator has repeatedly said Tame Impala is one of his favorite bands, and Tame Impala has repeatedly said Tyler, the Creator is one of their favorite artists too, and that they just haven't collabed yet, but that they love each other's music. And I thought that was so cute.
I would love to see that collab.
Same.
And I can sort of see it. They have similar vibes. Now, I've never thought about it before, but it makes a lot of sense.
I love that they love each other and that they're vocal about it and that Tyler names drops them in songs. I love that so much. And then another one is Baby Keem. This one surprised me a little bit more. Like, Tyler seems like, obviously I don't want to profile Baby Keem, but I was more shocked by this one here. He says, it's on his song Gorgeous. He says, Tame Impala, niggas in the cut smoking pot. That's it.
That's all you need to know.
that was the lyrics. That, Tame Impala, niggas in the cut smoking pot. And something about that was funny to me because I feel like white people are the only ones that call weed pot.
Correct.
And so to me, it felt like he was kind of saying like, oh, Tame Impala niggas, white people, are in the cut smoking pot, is how I took it.
That's really clever. That's like a reference within a reference.
You know, right? Like if you look at it long enough, you get it. But if I didn't look at the lyrics, I wouldn't know what the hell was going on. But yeah, black people do love Tame Impala, as seen by these rap lyrics here. Do you have any theories as to why you think black people, in particular, feel an affinity for Tame Impala?
Ooh, I think we're just getting something that we like, a style of music that is us given back to us in a little bit different of a way. I think it's so hard to hear these songs and not hear, you know, Funkadelic or, you know, so many other kind of like psych rock funk musicians. And so I think that it just something about it speaks to us
Mm-hmm.
in like a guttural way. And so even
Mm-hmm.
if Tame Impala himself is not like, oh well, my influences are XYZ black group. I don't need him to say that. It's
Mm-hmm.
obvious to me. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that if we were interviewing him, I don't think that he would be like, no, I've never listened to a black artist.
Like, of course not, right? He's
Yeah.
like black people. He would never, he would never definitely feel that.
And I think there's just a funk to it. I think like there's a danceability. We don't there like I think we are living in a time where a lot of rock music isn't as funky as it could be as it used to be. And so I think it's a
Yeah.
callback to when in the 70s when rock music also was dance music and there was
A
much
hundred
more
percent.
fusion happening there.
100%. One of the influences that he did mention by name were the Bee Gees, and I feel like the Bee
Mm,
Gees also had like a pretty funky black heavy influence to them.
totally.
So I'm like, even if he isn't directly saying black artists, like you said earlier, he is absolutely pulling from black influences all around in all of the artists that he named, like a Britney or a Kylie Minogue or anybody else. Speaking of, is Kylie Minogue Australian as well? Did I
She is
make that up?
Australian.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, he seems to like most of his influences were Australian also. So I think that that's just like what was immediately around him was Australian music. Also, Tame Impala has so many awards in Australia. Usually, when I go look at an artist's Wikipedia page, it'll list their awards right on their general Wikipedia page. It had a link to another Wikipedia page to list all of Tame Impala's awards because he had won so many fucking awards in Australia. I was like, damn.
Yeah. Wait, this is might be a stupid question. Do they have I feel embarrassed to even ask. Do they have like the Academy Awards in Australia or like the Billboard Australia Billboard Awards? They have their own separate awards.
They
Oh,
do. They do have
interesting.
their own separate awards. Yeah. I think they also, Tame Impala is repped in the UK and also in the US. They have representation in the UK and in the US. I don't know if they have representation in Australia, but I'm sure that they've also been nominated for some American awards somewhere. I just didn't look at the list that hard. All I saw was a shit ton of Australian awards, and I was like, damn.
He has to
They've
have his
been
own
nominated.
separate page.
Its own separate page, 83 awards. They've been
Oh my
nominated for 83
god.
awards, and they have 139, or he has 139. So,
That's so many awards. Good for him. I mean,
mhm.
I love seeing re- what I consider to be like very good music celebrated, and I'm happy that his music has been so successful, not just with us, but with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Chart topping singles, like number one singles in Australia. So good for Tame. While
Good
what
for
seems indie to
Tame.
us or underground to us is very much not in Australia. Like the one of the biggest musicians in Australia out. So good for Tame. That's all that I had though. Do you have anything else that you wanted to tell us about Tame that I
Ooh.
missed as a resident fan?
The only other thing that I would like to mention about Tame Impala is that they had a Black Lives Matter protest in Perth, Australia, and he went, which I thought was very cool. I've been to Australia. I didn't go to Perth, but I've been to Melbourne and Sydney, and there are not a ton of black people there. There were some, but there weren't a ton. And so the fact that they
Mm-hmm.
had a Black Lives Matter protest, I liked that. The fact that he
Mm-hmm.
came, I liked that even more. So I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
add that.
Doesn't it feel so good when the artist that you like further gives you reason to stand them?
Yes.
I
It
love
really
it.
goes back to what I was saying earlier about my unpopular opinion. I'm sure he has bad takes. I don't want to hear about it. Like,
We just don't want to know.
let me in on the things that make me like you more and keep me out of the things that make me like you less.
100%. I absolutely feel that. That reminds me a little bit on a tangent of Penn Badgley, who
Mm.
is an activist, but like very quietly so. And he kind of refuses to be spotlit as an activist. He's like, I'm just going to quietly go ahead and show up to these protests, and I'm going to quietly donate a shit ton of money to these causes. And I don't want you to write me up about it. If you ask me if you could write me up about it, I'm going to say no. And I'm like, that is so impressive. Like, I love
Wow.
that. And I love that Tame just showed up to the protest, Black Lives Matter, and I'll show you, popped out, showed up, had a good little time.
I love that Penn is so humble about his protesting. Also a fellow
Mhm.
podcaster. He has a good podcast. Fun fact about him, just the other week, a friend of mine, we were going to like have dinner, and I was trying to screenshot the name and the address of the restaurant and send it to her. And I accidentally screenshotted my last saved photo, which was a picture of Penn in like short shorts. And she was like, "Why did you send me this picture of Penn Bagley in short shorts?" And I was like, "Oh, sorry, that was from my private collection."
What do you mean why? Why not? Right, like I'm confused. You didn't want the photo? Like, are you saying that you didn't like it? What's confusing you? I don't get it.
Yeah, so yeah, I love a humble, quiet activist who doesn't want the
Me
spotlight
too.
on them. Nothing's worse than somebody who was like, "Did you all see I was at this protest? Did you all see I did this thing? Did you see? Did you get it? Did you write it
Okay,
up?"
Kim Kardashian. Right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we definitely see. We see. I definitely feel that. Also, I just thought of another question. Are there any specific music videos that you like from Tame Impala?
Oh, definitely. If there's one music video people should see, I guess live performance, it's that one from the Colbert Show. It is the coolest thing. Complete vibe shift. Definitely 10 out of 10. I cannot recommend people watch it enough. It is so cool.
And that's the one where he split into three, playing the
He's
different instruments
exactly.
and like giving a whole performance, putting everybody else's COVID performances to shame.
Exactly. Yeah, because there was
Okay.
like at that time it was like not. I mean, it was COVID and things were how they were. Not to judge anybody, but like, yeah, it was like, oh, I can actually bring a little bit of at-home production value to what I got going on here. It was a
Right.
COVID vibe shift.
Uh-huh. That's super cool. I'm definitely gonna watch that. I feel like talking to you about Tame Impala, just your excitement about Tame Impala really makes me want to dive in more. Sometimes, people are a little bit more lax about it. I'm a very passionate person, so I don't understand being lax about something that I really like. So I feel like you had the good vibe. I'm definitely going to listen. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on this show, Bridget. It was a pleasure having you.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine. This has been, if I can't go see Tame Impala live, being on this podcast talking about it is a close second.
I love that. Oh my God, that means so much to me. Wow. But we need to get you to go see Tame Impala live. Please tell the folks where they can find you on the internet, any projects you have coming up that you want to talk about.
You can listen to my podcast every Tuesday and Friday on iHeartRadio. You can get it wherever. I mean, you're listening to a podcast now. You know how to find it. It's called There Are No Girls on the Internet. You can listen to my side project with Next Chapter Podcasts called Beef, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Instagram at Bridget Marie in DC, or on Twitter at Bridget Marie, or on TikTok at Bridget Makes Pods. And I would love to connect with you there.
Sounds great. And per usual, you can find me at BPLP Pod across all social media platforms. You can email me at blackpeopleloveparamore@gmail.com with episode topic recommendations, hate mail, feedback, or anything else. That's it.
Great.
Talk
And
to
I
y'all later.
can't wait to see you on
Bye.
stage at
Oh,
Paramore.
please, please. Don't wish it upon me, but wish it upon me. But don't wish it upon me. Thank you. Bye, y'all.